Welcome back, everybody, to Golden Gulch episode 19. And this episode is probably going to be one of the better episodes to watch. I think, from a building aspect, this is more fun to watch anyway. We're going to be creating two new rides, one of which is a roller coaster, and the other might just be a roller coaster. We'll have to kind of see about that. The reason why the second roller coaster is coming is because I've kind of ran out of a little bit of thrilling water rides to go through. We've made a log flume, which is a little bit more like a family ride. We made a rapids, which is maybe a little bit more age required, I would say. It's a little bit more scary. And then now we're moving up to the high level thrill water ride. So I chose the water coaster for this ride, and that's actually what we're doing right now. We're making the layout for this, which we'll go through a couple of trial and errors. I wanted this to actually be more of a classic water. I don't know what it's called, but it was first built by Arrow, and it's basically where it goes up the lift hill, and then it makes a 270-degree turn about, and then it goes into a straight down drop and splashes down, and then it turns back into the station. That's basically all this ride is going to be, and then we're going to have our hyper coaster right next to it. That is the orange that we placed down before this. But for right now, the majority of the video is going to be working on this water ride. So even though it's not technically a water ride, it is going to be listed as a water ride if this park was to have a map or something. And I like how it turns out in the end. The exit might have to get changed. We're going to be doing the cues and the exits at the end of the episode. So near the end, you'll see what I'm talking about. But that might just have to get changed because it is atrocious. And that's what we're going to be working on next episode. We'll probably be going to do the scenery, and we'll probably actually lead into the next episode. So we'll probably do the scenery for one ride and then the scenery for another. Even though most of these rides are gonna just need the station and the queue. Like the hypercoaster will just need the station and the queue. This ride, on the other hand, will take a lot more work because I'm gonna make a concrete barrier for the boat, and I'm also gonna encase that top turnaround section to where it's like a little wooden hut almost, I guess. So that is the plan that is for the coming episodes in this park and for these rides. So that's just a little bit of insight on what's going to be going on in the future. So now that this ride is pretty much done in layout, it was really quick and it's about actually a 2-minute ride just because the lift hill. Now we're moving on to the hypercoaster. The colors I don't know about, and again, I don't have any names for these roller coasters, so if you guys have any suggestions, make sure to let me know. And I do have a couple of name updates for you guys, so stay tuned after I get a little bit through this hypercoaster that we're making here. So it basically turns out of the station and it cuts off the path that we have going next to our car ride. And that's basically, I wanted that to kind of lead into the queue there. And then that'll kind of wrap around the back, and that'll be the queue. And then basically, we're going to expand on the pathing as well in the front. And that's just because I feel like having two roller coasters, even though we don't want to list the water ride as a roller coaster, it would in the game. So it's probably going to draw in a lot more people. So we want to make sure the pathing is suitable for the people and all that. So we don't have big bottlenecks and a bunch of clumped up craziness. So that's what we're going to accomplish. I'll probably do that off camera, but that's just the little kind of thought process that is going through my mind. Anyway, now we have made our lift hill. This coaster stands at about 207 feet tall. It goes down the first drop and then goes into a big hill that does a turning or a banked turn coming down again, and then it turns into another banked airtime hill that straightens out at the bottom. And then after that, we will be creating a helix, and this is going to be a super big helix. Didn't want it to pull too many G's, but it is really big. And then after that, it's actually going to go into this super weird element. It's not weird, it probably would feel weird on the ride, but it's going to go up and then into a double up into the brake run, or a mid-course brake run, not the ride brake run. And so that's what we're creating right now. I did skip a lot of the smoothing for you guys. I did smooth this out a lot, so I skipped a couple of it, a couple instances where I um did some smoothing, and one of those is going to be coming up soon. It'll be a cut, and then we'll start working on the second half of this ride. I would say this ride is pretty short, and terms of length. It hits the mid course and then it has maybe two hills and then it's done. So I did take a little ride. So this is just well, that was just the lift hill. Well, never mind. We're doing the ride and you can see that it's really off, and then we'll cut here and it'll be pretty much fixed on the front half. So now we'll go to the second ride, and I was a little behind there, but we're gonna be doing a banked turn down, I believe is what I eventually went off of. I did a couple of trial and error here. I didn't know if I wanted it to come straight off or bank, and then I did a couple variations. I put a helix in there at one point. I tried to do an overbank turn, and I tried to do a bunch of different things, and we'll come up on what's gonna stick in a couple of seconds here, and then going forward. So basically what happens is if I remember correctly, I don't remember exactly what I did. I haven't been in the park file in a couple of seconds or so. Well, seconds, but minutes, I guess. I don't really know. And then basically what we came up with was a bank turn coming down and then into a couple of airtime hills and a helix, of course. Got to end it off with the typical helix, and then it goes into the brake run. So this one covers a lot of land out in the back, and I don't plan on theming it too much in the back, I would say. There's maybe a tree here, a rock there, a rock here, maybe one of those dead plants. I wanted this to be a really kind of barren, as I said in the last episode, the theming for this area is more of a outback kind of western, like the stereotypical one, where there's nothing but the desert and the tumbleweeds and all that. So that was the plan for this one. But anyway, we are coming to the end of this layout once I figure out the rest of this helix, this airtime hill, all that stuff, and we'll turn back into the station and the ride will be done. So that would conclude the building portion of this time lapse here. So now we have to do the queue and the pathing. And while we start to get on that, I want to tell you guys a couple of things that went on. So first, we named this area. So I really wasn't anticipating on naming the area as a whole, but I felt like this could just kind of fit into it. So this area is going to be just a year name, which is 1908. That is the Ford T model creation date. So thank you for GeForce Productions who commented that, gave me that inspiration there. So thanks for that. That's the area name, and then I also named the car ride. I named it Outback Autos. I figured that was just a little fun name, I guess. It's for the littler kids, so I wanted it to be a little appealing. And autos, I guess, just kind of goes with the type of ride it is, which is an automobile ride. So I think I like it. So, and then for other areas, we kind of have names for them, as I said, I kind of referred to in the last episode, where we have the Mexican area and then our village, which the village is actually named the village. So, I mean, I guess we do have names for our areas. But now we are going to need names for these two rides here. The water roller coaster that we have come back to do the queue and the exit and all that stuff, and our hyper coaster that we just created. So the hyper coaster, the trains are actually look like cars. I think that is what it was meant to look like. So that's why I was kind of referring to that in the last episode as well, how this area is going to be very transportation based themed. So and then obviously the water ride is a boat, which is also a roller coaster, which is kind of crazy. So that's kind of why I was referring to that, and that's why the year and the name for this area is what it is. So just keep that in mind when you guys are coming up with names for that. Make sure to leave your suggestion in the comments if you have a suggestion. But now is to the very weird and almost bland, but not bland because it takes forever to do part, which is making a queue. Every queue that I make is pretty much different. I do combination of like cattle pens and curves I like to try and do because it just kind of brings some scenery opportunities to the table, and obviously it gets away from those sticky cattle pens, those things just really suck, but it is how you get through the majority of the line, how the lines actually hold most of the people they have is through those cattle pens, so they're not completely worthless to at least the theme parks. um, then again, I do try and keep this curving area, and that's what we're kind of doing now that we have the base for this queue. I added a bunch of curves, which I've been doing, and I've been usually doing it in a pattern of circles. And the way I do that is I use the grid, not the grid, but the angle snap on a 15 degrees, and then usually I'll go about 2 and then I'll place, so about 30 degrees, and then I'll place, and then 30 degrees more, and then I'll place. So that just kind of keeps it in a circular pattern, and it brings a lot of scenery opportunities to the table. So I can kind of squeeze in little bits and bobs here, but then when it gets to the cattle pen, all I have to do is slap on a roof, and then we can just call it done. So that's pretty much it for this queue. We did not forget to do the priority pass though. That goes pretty much from the entrance all the way to the stairs. It doesn't go all the way to where you get onto the ride because it really gets annoying trying to put stairs on the priority pass. It looks way better with a regular um, path going up to the station instead of two. So now we are moving on to the water ride that we have going on here, and we're getting really close to the end of this episode as well, about a minute left. So we are going to be basically nearing the end of this episode, as I basically just said. So as we do that, we are going to be creating this queue, and as I said, this exit path has to change. Otherwise, I'm gonna have to do some magic with the station building. I don't know. It could be either one. And I'm not a huge fan of this queue either. It goes like down in, but it like stays parallel with the stairs that are coming out from the exit, and then we have it basically going out and curving back with a cattle pen. You guessed it. So that's pretty much what we have going on here in this episode. We're just finishing up the priority pass, and that would be it. So now, with that being said, thank you guys so much for watching this episode. We'll be back next week on Saturday to get this whole mess sorted out. But thank you guys so much for watching once again, and make sure to have an amazing day.